Mr. Speaker, I strongly support House Resolution 246. This is a bipartisan resolution I introduced with Brad Schneider, Jerry Nadler, and Ann Wagner to oppose BDS and efforts to delegitimize the State of Israel, which is now up to 350 co-sponsors. We must combat the BDS movement targeting our great ally in the Middle East. The BDS movement seeks to harm Israel today, tomorrow, and well into the future. It is an American value to be able to express legitimate, reasonable criticism of any government in the world, including our own. The BDS movement, though, is different. And we must reject the blatant anti-Semitism injected throughout BDS and the delegitimizing of Israel. We must educate and all be aware of the toxic anti-Semitic words of the founder of BDS and how we have so many Jewish students on college campuses right here in the United States from coast to coast targeted with blatant anti-Semitism in the name of BDS. Congress needs to make a very strong bipartisan statement against BDS, and this resolution does just that. In addition, we should also enact legislation with teeth. In February, the Senate passed anti-BDS legislation S1 with a strong bipartisan vote. This bill allows state and local governments to adopt laws to divest public funds from entities that boycott Israel. Lead Republican McCall already has a bill in the House, H.R. 336, that is identical to S1 and contains the anti-BDS legislation. I would strongly encourage the Speaker to bring this bill to the floor as well, so that not only are we making a strong statement, but we are doing something about it. Thank you again to House leadership for bringing House Resolution 246 to the floor today, for Chairman Engel's work and his team's work at the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Lead Republican McCall and his team. This is a big deal, and I'm honored to work with you all on this important effort. Really, from coast to coast, we're hearing stories of students on college campuses in the name of BDS being targeted with blatant anti-Semitism. For example, at New York University, after the student government passed a resolution supporting BDS, the Bronfman Center for Jewish Life was temporarily closed in response to threatening Twitter posts by a student who expressed, quote, a desire for Zionists to die. A University of Michigan professor refused to write a letter of recommendation for a qualified student solely because she wanted to study abroad in Israel. A Students for Justice in Palestine co-founder and University of California Berkeley professor spoke at a national conference and shared an anti-Semitic meme of an Orthodox Jewish person in his presentation. At Warren Wilson College, an invited speaker stated, quote, Jews are doing the same thing to the Palestinians as the Nazis did to the Jews. A Yik Yak posting at University of California read, quote, gas them, burn them, and dismantle their power structure. Humanity cannot progress without the parasitic Jew, end quote. More globally, University of Durban in South Africa called for the expulsion of Jewish students who did not support the BDS movement at the university. It's really important for people who may just be getting familiar with what BDS is to know that right now we have so many Jewish students who are being targeted with this blatant anti-Semitism. That's why this today's statement sends such a powerful message. I continue Some supporters of the BDS movement, in fact, the movement in total makes the argument that Israel is the bad guy on humanitarian issues, on human rights. It's important to note Israel has a long history of LGBT protections and women's rights enshrined in Israeli law that is in stark contrast to its Middle East neighbors. Regardless of ethnicity or religion, there are broad freedoms in Israel, including the right to vote, freedom of speech, equal access to education and the workplace, and no special restrictions on the way women dress. By law, women are protected from discrimination. In fact, Israel's Declaration of Independence grants all Israel's inhabitants equality of social and political rights irrespective of religion, race, or gender. Even Palestinians in the autonomous regions have voting rights and receive social services. Under Israeli jurisdiction, some 350,000 Palestinian residents in Jerusalem receive certain civilian welfare, health, and municipal services. In other parts of the Middle East, it is a monarchy with no voting rights whatsoever. Hamas has repeatedly denied humanitarian aid offered by Israel. In May 2018, when there were clashes on the border, Gaza refused 2 truckloads of aid from Israel to relieve medical shortages. There are so many falsehoods that have been perpetrated by supporters of the BDS movement, and that is, again, another reason why today's resolution is such a powerful statement. I continue to reserve. With regards to the BDS movement, the supporters they make territorial claims as it relates to Gaza and Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. Let's clear the record up a little more on that. Judea and Samaria, often referred to as the West Bank, contains disputed territory, not occupied territory. Israel ended up with this territory after it was attacked before there was even a Palestinian Authority. Time and again, the PA has rejected peace proposals because they refuse publicly and privately to accept a Jewish state in Israel. That's on them. In 2008, Israel offered to withdraw from 93% of Judea and Samaria. As for Gaza, Hamas, a designated foreign terrorist organization, they're in charge. There is no Israeli occupation there. This small strip of land is packed out with 1.7 million people living in sub-third world country conditions because of Hamas. As was pointed out earlier, Hamas refuses humanitarian aid, uses women and children as human shields, calls jihad as an obligation, murders innocent civilians. One of the most important reasons why we are here today is not only make a strong statement in opposition to the BDS movement, but to also refute all of the lies that are being told out there. People will speak up to try to justify the hate that's filling the ranks of the BDS movement, and they will never tell you the other 100% of the story. And this chamber today comes together, Republicans and Democrats, both sides of the aisle, to make that powerful statement. There's a list of victims. We don't have enough time to go through it. List of victims of Palestinian violence and terrorism in 2019. Well, we could look at the 1,355 people who have been killed by Palestinian violence and terrorism since September of 2000. 1,355 people, and never will the BDS supporters take any opportunity to set the record straight on any of that, but we will here. I see that Brad Schneider is with us as well, one of the bills, the main author of the bill. This is a bipartisan effort that I'm very proud to be part of today. This is something that we're very passionate about. And we also believe that the strong statement that is going to be made here today with this vote is not the last step of this chamber speaking out, but I really hope that we all can work together in bipartisan fashion to figure out how to do something about it, to be able to pass legislation with teeth. But today is nothing short of progress, and it's something for all of us to be proud of around our country and around the world, because it should be an American value to stand strong, shoulder to shoulder with our great ally, our greatest ally in the Middle East and Israel. It is a beacon of hope and freedom and liberty and opportunity. Americans in our day-to-day lives don't even realize just how much we are using Israeli technology. American companies that have used Israeli technology, we've probably used it multiple times just today. You can't boycott Israel and at the same exact time spend your entire day using Israeli technology. You can't boycott Israel and go travel to Israel. We're going to call out the hypocrisies that exist, but ultimately, as we flush this out, let's work together. This is about advocacy. It's also about education. When I came to Congress in 2015, honestly, there were a lot of members of Congress, if you asked them, where do you stand on the BDS movement, their answer would have been, what's BDS? And now in 2019, here we are. July of 2019 coming together. We know what BDS is, boycott, divestment, sanctions movement. We know it's filled with anti-Israel hate. We know it's about delegitimizing Israel. We know that it's filled with anti-Semitism from the founder of BDS to those in the name of BDS on college campuses from coast to coast. And I plead with all of my colleagues, if we can all work together as we move past this great vote today, that we can next pass legislation that has teeth in it.